any gay jokes in front of you, not knowing you was gay. You are one of the most brilliant people. And yes, I said I miss you, knowing people will try to flip that. He's finally crossed the line. He's selling this now. What is this? Okay, dude. I've wanted to make this t-shirt for years. My greatest performance art piece thus far. This has 89,000 likes. Twitter is so cooked. Yeah, HH Heil Hitler 01. Dude, let me explain something to you, okay? Let me explain something to you. This is 1,000,000% someone who is unimaginably desperate for attention, okay? He said, "Hail Elon." Kanye is not being a contrarian. If he was, he would be a communist. The ultimate contrarian under a capitalist system. Being a Nazi and spewing Nazi views just reinforces what capitalist fascist collaborators want to do. Dude, no, I don't think you understand. He is just simply doing what he thinks is the edgiest thing you can do. This is his perspective on what he believes is edgy. It's a desperate ploy for attention from an old man who is nearing 50 years old, who unfortunately, for many of his fans and himself, has not contributed to the culture in meaningful and relevant ways in quite a while at this point. And I think that bricked his brain. He already was like very obviously not all there, and surrounded by sycophants who lean into his worst motivations, who allow him to go crazy like this. He's just basically popping off, desperately trying to garner as much attention as he possibly can, and we're kind of giving it to him, but not in the way that he wants it to happen. You know, that's it. Can you explain how Candace Owens played a role in this? In Kanye West's most vulnerable moments, Candace Owens was literally constantly stuck to his ass cheeks, okay? A lot of people don't remember this. This was all the way back in like 2018, if I'm not mistaken. It was the first time he had a crash out. Van Lathan, I forget how to say his name, I'm sorry, famously had that TMZ argument with him where he was saying like slavery is a mindset, where he was basically unwinding, where he first started doing the MAGA. That was when he was linked up with Candace Owens. And Candace Owens was nonstop pumping his brain with, like, at first some Hotep stuff, and then later directly neo-Nazi. Okay, I remember talking about this at the time because I can't reveal my sources, but I also had some people that, especially when he went to Africa, when he did his Africa tour, I know some people that were there with him, and they explained to me how shocking it was and how much more that he's openly saying now, he was saying 7 years ago. He was saying all this stuff behind closed doors, and then he's now voluntarily revealing this stuff now. The reality of the matter is, this is kind of the trajectory that Kanye West has been on for almost the past decade. I used to be woke too. I like that being woke now is just saying being anti-Nazi. Like, that's what wokeness has gotten to. Cancel culture is now when you want to say that like a federal government employee shouldn't be on the timeline talking about, you know, deporting every Indian. That's cancel culture. Okay. If you say, hey, this like 19, 20-year-old was tweeting about how we should deport every Indian and we should normalize Indian hate. Okay. 2 weeks before assuming the role of controlling the treasury, right? Like maybe that's not the best possible person to hire for the job. That's cancel culture. And now woke is when you're like, say no to Nazis. You know what the worst part is? The album gonna suck? Yeah, 100%. If he could rest on his laurels, he wouldn't be doing this anyway. What do hacky ass comedians do when they don't have good material, when they feel like they're out of touch? What do? They hit the exact same button. They try to be as edgy as possible, because that drives reactions. If you're desperate for attention, you can always hit that cancel culture vein. You can always say like edgy. To be honest, this is incredibly sad, bro. His kids. Yeah, that's the other side of the story, which is like he's 50 years old. He has children at this point who can see him doing this kind of stuff. And it's just like, it's so lame. It's so corny. It's so sad. I don't know. I mean, he is just actively manic posting on the timeline up and down. He's about to be 50 soon and he's still doing this stuff. Yeah, there's not really much else I can say about it. Yesterday, the White Lives Matter tee sold the most. They'll buy all this Louis Vuitton owned by a French dude, but y'all mad. Now, the thing that's also, I guess, like if I were to do some systemic analysis here, some systemic critique, I think one of the major issues with this kind of hog behavior is that it does have a tendency to normalize other people coming out this way, because there are plenty of people who want clout. There are plenty of people who want attention. So they go, oh, well, Kanye's doing it, I'm going to do it too. And then there's also plenty of people who personally agree with this kind of attitude, and they see that as a perfect way to come out and actively try to make this more of a normal attitude to have. The way this works is like when Elon Musk hits that Sig Heil, and there's a lot of discourse, and he gets no punishments, no penalties for it as the wealthiest, most powerful person on the planet, that creates an environment where a lot more people will feel comfortable doing this kind of thing. And guess what? Kanye also contributes to that and has contributed to that. And that's precisely what's happening. Hasan, thank you for not feeding the narrative that Kanye's acting like this due to bipolar 1 disorder. I was diagnosed with it in 2017. No, the only thing that contributes to it is like, it obviously, when you're bipolar, yes, you are more vulnerable, more susceptible to outside influences like this, but it's still him doing it. You know what I mean? He's like, not everyone with bipolar disorder that goes out and becomes a Nazi. Okay. People actively work to control their urges. And I think that Kanye West, especially given the media blackout that he engaged in his spiraling in the past, like this is not the first time he's doing it. This is the second time he's doing it very publicly. Okay. And the stakes are constantly raised. So obviously there is a separate narcissistic tendency here where he obviously wants to garner attention by doing this. It's not because he's bipolar, although that feeds into him being vulnerable, I think, especially alongside his narcissism and his tendency to push away people that are like criticizing him or critical of him in his own orbit, that try to reach out to him and preserve his mental sanity. But it's clear that, especially considering the times where he hasn't behaved like this prominently, and the suspicious nature of how he came out recently again and started popping off like this again right before he decides to like release an album or sell some merchandise or whatever, it shows me that he's doing this for a very specific, very deliberate, very nefarious purpose, to garner more attention.
It seemed as if, at least back then, though those arguments were terrible, he was trying to articulate his point. I'm not blaming the fans. I'm not. Y'all don't have control over what Kanye West says. You aren't going to be the needle. But a lack of engagement, I think, is what's required when you see people doing things like this. Kanye West is incapable. Yes, Kanye West is incapable of making noise musically currently. He has no ideas, nothing thought-provoking, nothing left in the...
Exactly. And when you're like an incredibly influential artist for most of your life, I think that bricks your brain. So you try to hit the lowest common denominator nonsense that garners maximum amounts of attention. And that's where he is. That's currently where he is. Exactly. The Nazi stuff is a weird situation because on the one hand, it's incredibly dangerous to normalize this kind of rhetoric. Okay, that's one. Number two, he does have this ideological leaning for sure. Make no mistake. But the reason why he's coming out like this is not because of mental illness, even though that is a contributing factor. The reason why he's coming out like this is because he wants attention, and he doesn't know how to get it with his art. He doesn't have motion anymore. He can't fashion trends. He can't dictate music trends. He's completely far removed from rap as a medium. His artistic expression is not up to par. Like, I feel like if you made him listen to like a one Osama song or whatever, he would just he would snap back to reality almost. Like, it would break his brain so hard. Like, a lot of where rap is going right now with, you know, underground artists and underground music. No, not Bin Laden, man. Osama's son. Like a one Plaque Max collaboration stream would just destroy his brain. And it's interesting because he also recognizes that as well to a certain degree, because I saw him tweeting about how he just like doesn't listen to rap anymore because it's lame. He only listens to Wagner. He said his favorite rapper is Miles.
Get people talking, but he hasn't done so over the last 5 years. People that aren't hardcore fans, his genius, quote unquote, has not been acknowledged to that extent musically. I'm not saying that people don't still like his merchandise, but the allure of Kanye West clothing doesn't seem to be as hype as it was 5-6 years ago. So when no one's talking about Kanye, or bro wants some attention,
those are not dog whistles, my guy. He's selling a shirt with a swastika on it that's blatant. No. I'm saying, like, even I know it's blatant. But I'm saying even when he's talking about like